Hello, everyone. My name is Leo Bratcher, and along with my wife Trina, we are both real estate agents here in Central Arkansas. And we're starting a new series today where we are going to do state to state comparisons in things like cost of living rank, value of the dollar, state to state, real estate cost and values, state to state, and maybe help kind of just at least pique some interest and hopefully help you to ask some questions about where you're at and where you could be. We moved to Arkansas 4 years ago from the state of Oregon. So today's comparison, I'm going to start with the state that we came from because that's what kind of started my journey in this comparison process. And so we're going to look at that, and then we're going to go through several states, if not all the states, starting with states that my friends and family are at, because quite honestly, I want to convince them to come closer to me because I think it's not only financially better for them, but I think it's better for me because I want them here with me selfishly, and I'm okay with that because I'm at the age now where I can live with that selfishness. So I want to start with comparing Oregon with Arkansas, and then more specifically comparing the city McMinnville, Oregon, where we moved from, to the city of Cabot, Arkansas, where we moved to, just because sometimes the numbers of the city that you live in aren't necessarily going to be consistent with the overall state numbers, because there's a lot of variables that affect overall state numbers, right? So looking at just the stack and rack, if you will, or the ranking from 1 to 50 of which states are the most affordable to live in versus the ones that are the most expensive to live in. The state of Oregon ranks on that chart at number 40. So it's pretty up there. Now there's 10 states in the country that are more expensive to live in than the state of Oregon. So, you might be thinking, well, hey, at least I'm not living in the most expensive place, which is true. But when I compare that to Arkansas, Arkansas is ranked number 2. It is the second most economical state to live in overall. It is beat out only by the state of Mississippi and just barely. So we're pretty close, Mississippi and Arkansas, pretty close to the same cost of living, okay? And to kind of help illustrate that, there's a couple of things that we can look at. One is just the spending value of our dollar. Okay, when we look at a $100 bill, everybody likes to have $100 bills, right? When you look at a $100 bill, if you live in the state of Oregon, it currently, based off of the national average, your $100 bill has the spending value of $97. Okay, so that means just by living in the state of Oregon, you kind of lose $3 on the 100, which might not sound like a terrible thing. You're like, hey, it's pretty close. But when I consider Arkansas, your $100 bill has the spending power of $115. That is a 18% increase in spending power for the same dollar bill. So let's say you're a remote worker and you're making this amount of money, be it whatever it is, $50,000 a year, and you're living in Oregon. And you move to Arkansas, and you're still making that same $50,000, you, in theory, have just gotten or given yourself an 18% raise. Who doesn't want an 18% raise? I do. I'd love to have an 18% raise. I'd love to have an 8% raise, because raises are good, right? Raises bring us more spendability, more value. Okay, so that's where we rank Arkansas to Oregon. Now, when I look straight across at income, not just what the value of the dollar is, but how many dollars can I make via state to state? When I look at the state of Oregon, right now, the average income in Oregon, household income, is $59,000 a year. Not too bad. In the state of Arkansas, it's a bit lower. It's $46,000 a year. So it's significantly lower. It's about $13,000 a year difference. That's about $1,000 a month. Is a little over $1,000 a month, which I don't know about you, but $1,000 a month, big deal to me. But there's some things that come into play when I look at that. Arkansas has a pretty large rural area where income is lower. So that affects that as far as the state average, because when I flip that and I look at city to city, now McMinnville, Oregon, which is a small town just south of Portland, its average household income is $53,000 a year. So that's a significant, not significant, it's a smidge lower than the state average, right? It goes from 59 down to 53. So you're losing about half of that difference right off the bat, about $6,000 a year, about $500 a month. You compare that to where we're at currently in Central Arkansas, specifically in the Cabot area, which is just north of Little Rock. Similar as far as kind of bed and breakfast community, smaller city outside of the larger metropolitan area. The average income in Cabot, Arkansas is $59,000. So the average income in Cabot is the same as the average income in the state of Oregon. I thought that was kind of intriguing. But it is $6,000 more than the city of McMinnville. So you're really not going to make a big difference as far as average income. You're not going to see a big difference between coming from Oregon to Central Arkansas. Okay, pay-wise, about the same. But remember, the spending value of that dollar went up 18%. So you're seeing a significant difference just in the value of the money that you make before we look at anything else. Okay. The other thing that intrigued me when we moved here, now full disclosure, when we moved to Arkansas, the only reason why we moved, not the only reason, but the primary reason was because our grandkids were here and we wanted to be closer to them. Selfishly, that's what was the driving factor. However, there was a significant benefit pretty immediately when I started looking at things. And honestly, it took me a long time before I even really realized the importance of some of these things. Because I heard throughout my life, I need to move here or go here because I can make more money here. I've got some relatives that kind of can't see that, right? They're like, well, I can't make the same amount of money there as I make here, or I'm making more money here versus there. Which those statements are true, and I kind of had that ingrained in my head too. It's like, man, I got to make. I'm striving to make X number. I want to make 6 digits. I want to make. I'm trying to make as much money as I can make. But what I realized is there's other factors, and I didn't know this until recently. But I'm kind of old and slow and thick in the head. Hopefully, I've already learned these things. But one of the things I looked at that became pretty apparent when we first moved here was the value of the real estate market. Currently, in the state of Oregon, the average home value. And when I looked at the average home value, I looked at just kind of your basic kind of 3-bedroom, 2-bath starter home kind of thing, right? I'm not getting into the high-end homes or the, just kind of trying to find that nice middle ground, looking at that average cost to kind of, so we can, to the best of our ability, compare apples to apples, right? Average home value in Oregon, or the home cost in Oregon, currently is $451,000 a year. $451,000. Now, if you live in Oregon, you're like, yeah, okay. Because you kind of, over the years, as value goes up and price goes up, you just kind of become accustomed and numb to it, right? So when we lived in Oregon 4 years ago, for somebody to say a house was $350,000, $375,000, $425,000, it's like, okay, because that's what it was. We got to Arkansas, the average home, $150,000. It's $300,000 difference from one state to the other. Now that's a significant difference, a much more significant difference than the wage difference. Okay, and I'll show you why. And when I look at city to city specifically, okay, because remember the state, there's a little difference in when we went from state to city. It's the same as true in the real estate market. In the city of McMinnville, housing is a little less than the state average. The housing market in McMinnville, Oregon, average home $420,000, which is pretty up there when I compare to the average home in Cabot, Arkansas, $184,000. So again, still, what is that? About a $240,000 difference in that home value when we're comparing kind of apples to apples. And then when I started breaking that down, when I'm looking at, okay, well, can I afford to buy a home here versus there versus here? I had to look at not just the purchase price, but can I afford to make that payment on what I'm making? And that's where I found some really interesting information. So hypothetically, if I was still in McMinnville, Oregon, or maybe you're in McMinnville, Oregon, sorry about that. Let me turn that down. Woo! If you're in McMinnville, Oregon, and you're looking to purchase a home, and you're right there at that average home price, you find a home for $420,000. Okay, hypothetically, just conventional loan, and I'm not a mortgage broker, so I'm not going to get into all the different kinds of loans that are out there and all of that. I'm just looking kind of at that baseline, and I'm not going to look at debt to income ratio because that changes what you need and all of that. By no means am I an expert in that side of it. I have some knowledge in it because of the nature of our business, but I'm not an expert. I don't give that advice. I can connect you with somebody that can speak to those things because I'm not an expert. I'm just giving you kind of the basic numbers that I used to kind of evaluate where we're at and where we were. Okay, so based off of a 30-year fixed mortgage at 20% down payment, you figure about a 6% interest rate, which is, interest rates are always doing this, but right now for baseline, we're going to use 6%. For a mortgage of $420,000, your monthly payment would be $2,297. Okay, $2,297 is that payment. Versus when I looked at a mortgage in Arkansas for that $184,000, same parameters, your monthly payment is $1,233. So you think about that for a minute. Let's say you're currently in Oregon and you're making right at about that $59,000, $60,000 a year. Can you afford $1,233 or can you afford $2,297? And you may say, well, I can afford $2,297 because I pay quite a bit in rent or that kind of thing. But does the bank think you can afford $2,297? Okay, kind of the rule of thumb is that you can spend 28% of your gross pay on housing. Okay, so if we use that as our baseline, it's like 28% of my gross income. That's what I can afford as a monthly payment for my mortgage. The answer to the question in Oregon is no, you cannot afford it. See, because here's the thing, on that basis, 28% of $59,000, you can afford $1,340 a month. Or on the $53,000, sorry, McMinnville, Oregon, average income, $53,000, which means you can afford a monthly payment of $1,340. That is, what is that, about $850 a month less than what you need. Or to flip that around, let me tell you what you need. In order to purchase a $420,000 home, you need an annual income of $91,000 a year. $91,000. Now we flip that. Okay, let's say hypothetically you transfer to Central Arkansas in the Cabot area for that $184,000 home, which is, remember, apples to apples, and I'm going to show you some comparisons here in a little bit. Apples to apples, we're talking the same. You're looking at needing $1,233 a month for your payment. Based off of your income, you can afford $1,479, which means you have about a $250 cushion, that money left over that you can apply to other things. Or, put in other terms, you only need an annual income of $49,000 to afford to buy the same level of home that you needed $91,000 a year to purchase in Oregon. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty amazing. I only need to make about half as much money to buy the same thing. Okay. So just for fun and to close us out, I want to show you just a couple of examples of what we can get in Oregon versus Arkansas. And then we'll close out, and then I'll see you on the next video with the next state. Now, in the state of Oregon, this is what you get for $184,000. And this is what you can get in Arkansas for that same $184,000. In the state of Oregon, this is what you can get for $420,000. In the state of Arkansas, this is what you can get for $420,000. See, pretty significant difference when we look at the value of home that we can get for the dollars that we work hard for. So if you find that you are in that sort of a position, whether you're a retiree or getting ready to retire, or you're a remote worker and you're kind of on that fixed income, but you have the freedom and the flexibility to relocate and to move where you want to move to, or where you can move to, there are places and there are ways that you can make that dollar go further. And we're not the only place. I already admitted we're not the cheapest place. We're number 2. But we're a great place. And we would love to have you closer to us and to help you find the home of your dreams that you can afford, and that you can have that freedom and that flexibility and that comfort and that security that comes with that. Because one of the things, and it took me a long time to learn this, it's not really about what you make. It really isn't. We're taught that it is, but it really isn't. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much is left. Why not consider making a change and having more left over that will allow you the ability to breathe easier, to play more, and to have a better sense of security for you and your family. If there's anything that we can do for you in regards to that, maybe you've got some questions, maybe you're intrigued, maybe you want to look at comparing your specific situation and see if there are options for you. Would love to help you with that. Would love to have you click like, subscribe, whatever it is. You can find us here on the YouTube. The YouTube, it's not the YouTube. That's a Southern thing, by the way, adding the... You can find us here on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, believe Twitter, and I'm not sure if there's other places. Trina takes care of that stuff better than I do. And look us up. Reach out to us. And we love having you join us along the way as we continue to help others discover Arkansas.